Why would they blow this whale up? On November 12, 1970, the inhabitants of the quaint town of Florence, Oregon, witnessed an unusual event when a detonating whale propelled fragments of meat and blubber soaring to a height of 100 feet in the air. A colossal 45-foot-long 8-ton sperm whale carcass had recently beached itself, presenting a formidable challenge for Oregon's Department of Transportation. Charged with the unenviable task of dealing with this massive and malodorous behemoth, officials were driven by a unique concern: the potential for daring individuals to scale the giant creature, risking not just an unusual adventure, but the unsettling prospect of tumbling into the odoriferous abyss of the whale's carcass. The cleanup mission took on an unexpected urgency, as officials feared people might start climbing it and could even fall into the whale's carcass. This incident has attracted news reporters like Paul Lindman to report on this incident, as he heard that they were using dynamite to blow up the whale.
It had to be said, the Oregon State Highway Division not only had a whale of a problem on its hands, it had a stinking whale of a problem. What to do with one 45-foot, 8-ton whale dead on arrival at the beach near Florence?
The person in charge of the highway department engineer, George Thornton, told Lindman dynamite had solved plenty of problems in the past, and he had a strategy.
Well, I'm confident that it'll work. The only thing is we're not sure just exactly how much explosives it'll take to disintegrate this thing, so the scavengers, seagulls and crabs and whatnot can clean it up.
He made that historic decision after discussing it with U.S. Navy and munition experts. Burial seemed a futile endeavor, with the relentless decay and overpowering stench destined to resurface in no time. Though it would have been possible to cut the carcass into pieces after relieving methane pressure with incisions, nobody was eager to do so due to the smelly corpse. They gathered the right amount of explosives, half a ton of dynamite, and positioned them on the land side of the giant behemoth, hoping to blow up the dead whale outward into the ocean. Before the detonation, the news reporters and witnesses were a quarter-mile away from the carcass to ensure their safety. The detonation proceeded after preparation was done, and it was a loud blast that sent the whale's meat 150 feet into the air. The sand in the area also erupted into the sky like an exploding volcano. The chunks of whale meat launched dangerously towards the spectators, despite standing some distance away from it.
Boom, 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 boom. And all of a sudden you realize, my God, I could be killed by whale blubber here.
This causes some of the spectators to panic and run away from it. Fortunately, no one was hurt by the explosion. The chunks weren't as bite-sized as the officials expected, but it still has the ability to crush a sedan parked near the onlookers. The victim could only watch in horror as his car was reduced to scrap metal.
It was a neat car. I just got it from Dunham's, and it was a Regency. And like I say, the funny thing about their slogan was a whale of a deal.
Fortunately for the victim, the state of Oregon footed the bill to replace his car. As for the officials, exploding the whale only makes matters worse. The smell of the dead body was twice as smelly as they blew up the whale's dead organs, which causes the smell that lingered in the area to be more pungent. The officials expected the scavengers like seagulls to eat up the whale meats were nowhere in sight, likely scared away by the explosion or kept away by the smell. The officials also had to use tractors to clear up the remains that were not blown up properly. George Thornton, the guy who instructed the blowing instructions, was embarrassed about the plan's failure. It remained a regretful blemish for him until he died in 2013 at 84 years of age after this incident was shown on TV. The state of Oregon has changed its approach from exploding the dead whale to burying it after learning the mistakes from that incident. 9 years later, 41 sperm whales beached themselves and died on a beach south of Florence. The authorities didn't even consider blowing it out, as they were aware of that infamous Oregon incident, and they chose to bury the carcasses instead. In July 2020, half a century after the explosion, a new park was dedicated to the historical event. The park is called Exploding Whale Memorial Park, as most Florence residents voted for this name. While guidelines have certainly changed over the years, people like Lindman can still remember that day as if it were yesterday, due to the obnoxious smell that Lindman cannot forget.
I can still conjure it up 40 years later. If I think about it, I can still smell that smell.